Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of My Waterbury. I am your host, Art Denze. And as customary, I have to say hello to our little Princess Grace, hoping that everything is all going well for another few weeks before they get out of school. I'm sure the parents will be happy about that. But I just want to make one announcement before we get into this evening's folks, that this Saturday, June 2nd, as I've been talking about for the last few weeks about a Relay for Life, is at Frisbee Elementary School in Wolcott. And hopefully you'll come out and visit us. There's no cost. If there's any cancer survivors, please show up early, register, and you will be invited for lunch. Plus you'll get a survivor t-shirt, and you'll be honored at our luncheon. Okay, it is an all-day affair. It's no longer a 24-hour event. And hopefully the shorter hours will make it better for everyone. And nothing much is going to change except for the length, and there's no overnight stay. So please come out, Frisbee Elementary School. You could come out early as 8 o'clock, but opening ceremonies start at 10 a.m. And we will be having our famous Larry Rifkin from our former Talk of the Town host here in Waterbury. He will be our MC, and WATR will be broadcasting live from the area, so from the park. But anyway, without further ado, I do want to introduce, and I know he doesn't need an introduction, Steve Schrag, Chairman of the Waterbury Environmental Commission.
Thank you, Art. Good to see you tonight.
Same here. And folks, I've been talking about this for a while now. Hopefully you'll get a little more information tonight. But it's so important to keep that meeting night and date in mind. It's Tuesday, June 12th. Waterbury City Hall, Veterans Memorial Hall.
6 p.m. 6 p.m.
6 p.m. And this is very, very important. Numbers matter. You don't have to speak. Just show up. Bring your neighbor. Bring 5 people that you know, 2 people that you know. It's very, very important to have a crowd there. We have to make an impression that we don't need more trash in the city of Waterbury. With that being said, Steve, you got it.
Thank you, sir. Well, last night you raised a really important point with me, and you talked about how do we make this clear that this is an environmental justice issue.
Oh, absolutely.
And that the problem is the flaw in how this system doesn't work for our community. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to begin by talking a little bit about what the principles are of environmental justice, right? The principles that go back to the mid-1990s. That's where this began. And it basically is to avoid, minimize, or mitigate disproportionately high and adverse human health and environmental effects, including social and economic effects, on minority or low-income populations. Now, that also, when you say the word low income, it doesn't mean you have to be poor to be low income.
Right.
You can be middle income and low income.
Right, exactly.
In the world we live in today.
Right.
I mean, as a matter of fact, the United Way has done a study. It's called the Alice Project. 57% of Waterbury can't pay their bills. Mm-hmm. They work, but they don't have enough money to pay. The working poor.
That's
exactly.
Correct. I know. I spent a few years with the United Way.
Yeah, so you know exactly what I'm talking
exactly.
about. Right. So here is what the Connecticut Department of Environmental Protection, or Connecticut Energy and Environmental Protection, DEEP now, what they require of businesses when they expand an operation like they want to propose here.
Right.
They require, at that meeting that they organize, to post a sign on the property. Did you see a sign on the property that day?
No, I'm afraid not.
No, because the property is recessed and many people had a hard time finding
Exactly,
that
I'm one of them.
Right. They were required to get written notification to local and state elected officials. They did not. Mm-hmm. They were required to give written notification to neighborhood and environmental groups. I think Town Plot qualifies as a neighborhood group. Did your group receive a notification?
Never.
No. And my Gilmartin neighborhood did not, and my Environmental Control Commission did not.
I don't think Brooklyn got notified either.
Nope. At the meeting, if you remember this is what they were supposed to do at that meeting. They were supposed to identify the health impacts. Did they tell us there were any health impacts?
Health impact?
No, they did not.
Not from them.
I'm going to answer my own question. They were supposed to talk about how they were going to reduce the hazards that they were going to create. They said there were no hazards to be created, if you remember correctly. They told us what the pollution control measures were going to be. They did not do that. They were supposed to notify not only town officials in Waterbury, but because the trucks are going to be coming off of exit 29 off of Route 8, most of us think of that as South Main Street, right? It's not. It's Old Waterbury Road. In Naugatuck. Our lovely neighbors of Naugatuck. And they were not notified either, because I've met with Mayor Hess and I have talked to my counterpart with their Conservation Commission. They were never notified.
Never notified.
Right. There was inadequate space in that room, if you remember.
Yes.
There were not enough chairs for the people that were there.
Oh, that small little, no.
Right.
No, 2x4.
There was actually no information provided. They talked at us for 15 minutes and, that was it. Right. They didn't hand us anything. There was no handouts or anything. And so all of this is supposed to have been done adequately prior to filing their application.
Right.
I don't think this entire process is legal.
Well, I'm just going to say, so doesn't that qualify for have this whole thing negated?
We're going to find out. We're going to do that. We're going to ask for that. We're going to make the argument that because none of this was approved, and I have an email from the Environmental Justice Coordinator at that, and I have to go compare the dates. But at one point she said, no, they had not filed all the appropriate stuff. I want to figure out if they had filed their application before they came into compliance, whether this whole thing has to start from, the clock has to start from zero.
Doesn't that qualify for a double standard, Steve?
Yes, it does. You already knew the answer to that question.
No, really.
You already knew the answer to that question. But they have a process that they're supposed to follow. And they did that one very poorly organized meeting. If you look at the 175-page report that they filed, 95% of it is what we did.
Yeah, you're right.
It was the neighborhood council meeting.
Yep.
It was the Environmental Control Commission meeting. It was them coming to the zoning commission. I don't know how that qualifies as environmental justice. They didn't organize the zoning commission.
What did they organize?
The one thing they organized is the one meeting I just described that wouldn't get a C if you were graded based on. Those are the criteria that the DEEP says they have to meet. That wouldn't even get a C. That would barely get. They might not even get a D. What? So if you can't get a passing grade on the environmental justice meeting, they use this term social promotion, right?
Yeah,
I guess this is a version of that for polluters. Yeah.
Well, my question is, and I don't want to throw you a curveball, but what is the responsibility of the DEEP?
Protect us.
The citizens.
Our health.
The taxpayers.
Our health.
The air we breathe.
Yeah. The water we drink, the air we breathe.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, aren't they supposed to protect the fish?
Yeah.
In the running waters that we have.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with all these concerns, I hope they take that into consideration when. Well,
it's up to us, and it's what you said. If we have enough people there on the 12th,
it's a must.
It's a must. We have to have enough people there, and you're absolutely right. We want as many people to testify as feel comfortable.
Right.
But if you don't feel comfortable testifying, just coming there is important.
That's very, very important.
We have to make sure Veterans Memorial Hall is
jam-packed.
Yep. That is exactly correct.
No question about it. And the main thing, and I I don't know how to impress so much on the folks in Waterbury. Even if you don't live in Waterbury, if you're surrounding towns, even down the valley. This is going to create, in my mind, it's going to create havoc in the streets surrounding that particular plant. All the neighborhoods.
There is a quote in one of the hearings where the report from the company about traffic said that the construction of the Mixmaster will have no
effect.
effect.
Really?
I have to laugh because I have, over the years, and you as well, we've been involved in lots of these development projects, and we've seen lots of these reports by consultants. And I've always said to people that if being a wealthy man was my goal, I would go over to Staples and print up little cards that said Steve Schrag Consultant, because it's a license to print money. It really is.
You're right.
But you can't have a heart. All you have to do is worry about your wallet, but you can't have a heart. So these consultants that have come in years ago was another consultant that said that everybody who was going to go to what is called Great Hill, that big piece of land between Waterbury and Naugatuck, just south of my neighborhood, that everybody was going to go. There was a proposal at one point to do a casino there. You may remember that.
Yes.
Everybody in Waterbury and Town Plot was going to go down Highland Avenue, get on 84, and go 8 south to get to that particular site. Mm-hmm. And everybody in the East End was going to get over on Plank Road and get on 84 and go 8 south. Everybody was going to do nice and orderly drive the way they want you to, as opposed to what we all do. If I want to go to Town Plot, I don't get on 80. I go Nichols Drive up
the shortest way possible.
Exactly. If I want to go to the East End, I don't get on 8 and 84. I go, I go Pearl Lake Road, Hamilton Avenue.
Exactly.
And that's how people from that end would come there too.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how real people drive, not how consultants drive.
Well, here again. Now, I remember one thing, one part of the information that they spread there, that if the drivers don't follow the route that they have been given, they will be fired.
Right. Now,
wait a minute.
But you got to know, like anything in life, it's the fine print.
Yeah,
the
right.
fine print. When you read that, I don't know if I brought it with me, but when you read the actual settlement agreement between the city and F&G, those things are only going to happen when there's a complaint. In other words, they're not going to monitor them. There's only going to be you are designated to sit on Highland Avenue and watch the trucks. So if the trucks come on Highland Avenue, you have to file a complaint. You have to stand guard.
Okay.
You might want to think about putting a toll up there. That maybe you can make a couple of dollars.
Yeah, right. Good luck to that.
But it's only complaint driven. So they're not going to be monitoring these trucks. They're going to be worried about whether the truck is on time or not, not whether it's following the particular route.
Exactly.
Yeah. So one of the things I just wanted to raise up, I gave you what their criteria of the environmental justice process is. And I want to throw a couple of things out that we think are other things that should be part of this criteria. Do they disclose all of their violations easily? Do I have to go researching everything? Or will they tell us where they violated worker safety? Because this company has killed 3 workers. 3 workers have died on the job. And they have environmental violations as well. Right? Will they do that? Will they give that to us without us having to go searching around? Will there be a level of transparency about their corporate documents? I think you've heard me say this over and over again. There are 7 LLCs associated with this. The company filing for the permit is not the company that owns the property. So if something goes wrong, if there is a fire on this site or something else goes wrong, who is actually going to be held accountable?
Right.
The permittee or the owner?
Well, none of them own anything, do they?
Well, that's the whole...
With the structure that they have.
That's the whole point of an LLC, is to try to reduce liability.
Right. Limited liability.
That's what it's called. Limited liability. They clearly did not try to include the public when they did their first environmental justice meeting. We raised at the preliminary hearing for the evidentiary part of this process the idea of doing another one. The attorney for them, Mr. Spinella, made it abundantly clear that they were unalterably opposed to doing any more environmental justice meetings. What kind of neighbor is that?
What are you hiding? You think this, again, I mean, why not be open?
Right.
And you talk about, fires? How many fires have been noted throughout the country?
300 a year, 1 a day.
At this type of a plant.
Yep. As a matter of fact, not only is it a problem with fires across the country at these kind of plants, but when you look at the toxic release data for Connecticut, pollutants that are released, one of the top ones in the state of Connecticut is a garbage transfer station in Bridgeport. Not owned by this company, but the same kind of facility is one of the leading polluters in the state.
Right.
This, on top of the zip code 06706, which has
a disaster
which
to
has
begin
amongst
with.
the worst. One of the things that we're going to be talking about, just like we did with First Light, is the asthma rate of our kids. There are 5,000 kids a year in the school system who have asthma. 15,000 medications a year.
And I had a book that was published a while back by the Waterbury Health Department. And I'll have to dig that up because the rate at that point was very, very high. So,
well, we are at the intersection of 8 and 84.
Right.
What do we all drive that creates particulates?
Electric cars?
No, I don't think so. Not driverless cars, please.
No.
Please don't go.
Yeah. No, I mean, we might be having a laugh here too, but it's sad, folks, because we are being taken advantage of, and it's who is protecting us? And then I keep saying week after week, month after month. It's about time we get people that we elect put in office to look out for our benefit, not theirs. And in this particular case, we're lucky that we have 2 elected officials that have been with us through thick and thin. And I have to give credit where credit is due.
Absolutely.
Jerry Reyes and Larry Butler.
Absolutely.
Those 2 guys have been fantastic. And you know what? Larry Butler lives on the other end of town.
Yeah. Well, I think Larry's the kind of person that understands that North End or South End, it's one city. And
it doesn't exactly.
And we have to figure out how to pull together. Making Waterbury the trash capital of Connecticut doesn't make the North End any better.
No. And then look what we faced with on Freight Street for so many years.
Phoenix Soil, and before that, environmental waste removal.
Right, EWR. And then we had, what was it, PPG?
PGP is still in that South End where it's always been, and that's another example of somebody where a worker was killed during Hurricane Gloria, one of the security guards. And John Connolly, may rest his soul, tried to take them to court because the worker was killed by a very common toxic called carbon monoxide.
Oh, wow.
It's not hard to figure out that that's dangerous.
Right. Exactly.
They did not have adequate security alarms, and that's why the worker died. He tried to take him to court, and unfortunately the judge threw it out.
Yeah.
But, the South End already has a sewage treatment plant. It already has a sewage treatment incinerator
that we're burning
mercury out of.
From out of town and out of state.
But propane, the gas tank storage tank.
How about the natural gas down there?
That's
right.
We have Hubbard Hall. We already have a lot of stuff in this particular neighborhood.
And ONG has an asphalt plant down there.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
So you put that all together and take a deep breath.
No,
you're going to have some serious health issues.
And all of this right next to where we expect to spend millions of dollars, already spent millions of dollars, I guess, building a greenway, trying to recapture the river to give people a place to be able to relax and recreate.
Recreation.
My wife and I are bike riders. We go to the Cheshire Bike Path all the time. I have to tell you something. I wouldn't be looking forward to going on a bike path if I had
not if you have to smell or look
garbage trucks and odors from garbage.
Exactly.
That wouldn't exactly excite me or attract me.
And the thing that I have done, I want to make sure you folks know, these type of companies, they'll always target minority and poor neighborhoods for whatever reason, because they figure that's going to be an easy path to victory.
Right, exactly.
And this is something that I think we should be outraged at, folks.
Absolutely.
Everybody should be equal to the same justice in the city.
Well, the thing is this, their logic, and I'm sure this is exactly what they would say, well, it's already zoned industrial.
Yeah.
So it already has a lot of problems. We're not significantly contributing to it. That is where the logic falls. You are adding to the burden.
A tremendous amount.
And the fact that because there already are other things there doesn't mean it's okay to pile on. Right?
Exactly.
But that's their logic.
Yeah.
Is that it's already there. It's already zoned industrial. And like you say, quite frankly, from a strategic point of view, they figure it's easier to put this up here than it is in a wealthy community.
Right.
I don't think they're going to Westport to go put this up.
Or Fairfield?
Or Fairfield, or Darien, or Greenwich, or,
And then you said about the money that's going to be invested in the Greenway. And I haven't heard the Greenway Committee speak up about this.
Well, I've talked to Kenny Curran. He says they will send a letter to Deep.
Okay.
So.
And then what about all the money now that we're investing in the Animet site? Mm-hmm. The demolition, the cleanup, and then trying to put this land on the market for development. Who in their right mind will want to come into the city and build any type of business of any kind next to
garbage
transfer
If you remember,
station?
that's what they wanted to put on that site. They wanted to put an anaerobic garbage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't, Steve, it really doesn't make any common sense to do what.
Well, I know I've said this before, Art, but quite frankly, the biggest challenge we've had in this community is that when the brass mills closed, there has not been the leadership coming out of either the economic or political sphere to find a new path for this city. Our two largest private sector employers are our two hospitals. Mm-hmm. There are no other rivals that have developed in the community. Basically, what do we do when what they call development is another strip mall, is another retail establishment, another box store.
How productive is that?
Well, it's very nice to have a box store, but the workers in there don't make enough money, which comes back to what I started with. That's why we have 57% of the city can't afford to pay their bills.
Exactly.
Because we don't have good jobs. We spent nearly $500 million downtown between the Roland Building, the Information Technology Zone, the bricks on East Main Street, moving UConn
that might
down
be changing soon, though. Don't hold your breath. But
yeah, right.
That's it.
All the Arts Magnet School. And my wife gets mad at me when I say this. The Palace Theater. And moving UConn. We spent $500 million, and we still have one of the highest unemployment rates in the state. Mm-hmm. That's because none of that was economic development. It was developer development.
Oh, you've got to better believe it, and very handsomely rewarded development.
But it did not tick off our unemployment problem in the city. It did not create permanent good jobs.
Right.
That has got to be the criteria. What's going to create good jobs? If people have, we have a mall in Waterbury. I'm not a shopper. My wife's a shopper. She doesn't go to the Waterbury Mall.
A lot of people.
Meriden. She'll go to West Hartford.
That's all I hear.
Because what's at that mall is not really the kind of stores that shoppers go to.
Right. I see tonight on the news, 72 or 73 more Sears stores will be closing.
Is ours on the list?
Well, this is what I'm saying. I mean, you're getting more of these places being locked up than opening.
We lost our Kmart, right? We lost our Sports Authority.
Yeah. But this is what this is what you're faced with. But why should we allow something like this to happen? These garbage trucks, again, will go just in any way they can to get where they have to go to dump that garbage.
Of course they will.
And the thing is, Steve, and how many times have we heard this, that there will be almost no smell, but they're going to spray something that will contain the smell. But nobody is telling us what is in the spray.
They're adding one more chemical to an area that already has one. It's not logical to me.
No.
Not logical to me. So we're going to continue to educate people. We are between now and the hearing on the 12th. We're going to be people getting together at South Main and Washington Street this Saturday at noon.
Good.
We're going to be inviting people to come to the site if they want to on 3 o'clock on the 7th.
Okay.
We're going to be having a joint Waterbury-Naugatuck Environmental Control Commission meetings at probably at the VFW Hall in the South End.
Okay, good.
The 11th, the Board of Aldermen will have an opportunity to chime in and support us because there'll be a resolution on their agenda. And on the 12th, Waterbury will have an opportunity to chime in and tell Deep this is not a good idea.
Well, Steve, I'm in hopes that the DEP will think this through very clearly, because this is something that is it's going to further affect the south end of the city.
Yep.
And the residents down in the city. Not only that, obviously, I don't have to tell you, air, that travels. It all depends on which way the wind blows.
Literally.
And, combine that with the incinerator plant and the
sewage treatment plant.
Yeah. And what do you have? That's only 2 other components.
And it's all in a
valley.
Right.
Right.
Not a good situation.
No. And that's why I say it's...
And for those of us that barbecue in the summertime, there are nights when you can't.
I know.
There's nights
So
when you can't.
like I said, folks, please be aware. Please. If you ever do anything, this is one situation where you can show and make a big difference. Show up at that June 12th meeting at City Hall. It's so very, very important. I even changed our neighborhood association meeting because we were scheduled to meet the 12th. But I mean, this is too important.
Absolutely.
To let it go by the boards. I mean, you know, we get 30 to 50 people that those people are just as welcome to come downtown.
If they all come down, and people from my neighborhood come down, people from the south end, people from the north end, if we get people from all parts of the city,
right,
we will have an impact.
This is a united effort, my friends, and remember that, united. You know, united we stand, divided we fall.
Absolutely.
This is the bottom line. And if this thing is allowed to come down, you're going to see a tremendous amount of garbage trucks going anywhere throughout the city. And I think Highland Avenue would be horrendous, especially that we have 3 schools up there, right on Highland Avenue.
The idea that hundreds and hundreds of trucks, which is exactly one of the issues we raised with Chestnut Hill. Right. The ideas of bringing Waterbury acting as a magnet to more garbage trucks. It's the wrong. I got to tell you something. There's 2 things about this. One is all the things that we've raised, and the other is the optic of making Waterbury the trash city of the state.
Of the state. You're absolutely right.
That is not the way to promote your city.
Oh, I said that many years ago.
And unfortunately, we've gone through EWR, as you said, Phoenix Soil, the asphalt plant, right? Multiple versions of trash incinerators. I can't even keep track of how many of those we had to fight.
I know it.
The anaerobic digester, and now this. We have had to go through countless versions of this.
All right. They say our time is up, Steve. Well, as usual, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Friends, the ball's in your court now, June 12th. I just hope you get some good information here. Steve has just been a watchdog on this. I hope to see you that night at City Hall. Again, thank you and for allowing us into your living room this evening. And good Lord willing, I will see you again next week.